Hello and welcome to another edition of Career Magic. My name is Nitin Kulkarni, and on this channel I talk about little things that can create a big impact in our careers and on the quality of our life. And today's topic is the mundane sounding topic of habits. At some level we all understand that we are what we do. We become what we do. Our actions determine what we become and the impact we create in our lives. It's not our feelings, our intention, our motivation, what we say, etc. But it's what we do that determines our success and impact in life. And central to what we do are habits. Habits are things that we sort of do repetitively, either good or bad, that create an effect. Good habits over a period of time have a compounding effect and actually multiply the good things we do to produce a big impact. It's sort of like the compounding effect of money. Whereas bad habits over a period of time again have a compounding effect and they erode our potential, erode our ability to get good things done, and therefore take away from our impact and influence. So it's really important to have good habits and get rid of bad ones, and we all at some level understand that. But it is notoriously difficult to do that for most people. Life is full of broken New Year resolutions that we make, that we are going to start exercising, we are going to start developing ourselves in terms of learning new things, we are going to build more relationships and network, etc. There's lots of good intentions we have, and we understand that when we do those things, they are going to lead to success. However, we fail to do those. So it's a really strange predicament in which we find ourselves, and it's really important to understand why this happens and how to break that pattern. So this is a two-part series I'm doing, and I feel it's my belief that it's important to understand the mechanics, the logic, the reason behind why something happens or how something works before applying strategies, because then the strategies become more powerful. If we do it without understanding how it works and why we are doing what we are doing, it will still work, but I think the impact is a lot greater if we understand. So that's why I've broken this up into two parts. In the first part, I'm going to talk about why this happens. Why is it so hard to do the things that we want to do? For example, there are doctors who smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. Now think about it. We all know the harmful effects of smoking, and doctors of all people know it better than most. And yet there are doctors who smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day, are not able to give up that habit, even though rationally, logically they know that they are badly affecting their health. A lot of us want to exercise and we decide to exercise in the morning, but we are not able to get out of bed. We set an alarm for ourselves to get up in the morning at a certain time, but then we snooze, keep pressing the snooze button and blow off that intent to exercise in the morning. So these sorts of things happen all the way. So the two parts that I have broken this up into, today what I am going to do is, in this episode I am going to get into why it is difficult, how does all this work, and therefore what are the challenges, what are the resistances, and what are some enablers that will help us get into good habits and away from the bad ones. And in the second part, therefore, I am going to talk about strategies that take advantage of those enablers and break down those resistances in order to create for us a path to better habits. So that's what I'm going to do over these two episodes. Now at the outset, I want to talk a little bit about us and what happens in our minds, and the best way to understand this dichotomy of wanting to do something yet not being able to develop that habit This dichotomy is best explained by a University of Virginia psychologist. His name is Johathan Haidt, and in his book The Happiness Hypothesis, he talks about the human brain being in two parts. So we have two parts in our brain. There is one of them he calls the rider. The rider is the rational part of our brain, and the second one he calls the elephant. The elephant is the emotional part of our brain, and in order to develop a habit or to change something, the rider and the elephant have to move together. So imagine the rider sitting on top of the elephant and controlling the elephant and navigating us towards better habits and away from bad ones. So that's the combination that has to work together to help us do what we want to do. Now these two have some characteristics. The rider is very small, but the rider and the elephant is very big. It's a 6-ton animal. The rider is like a human rider sitting on top of the elephant. Small, does not have a lot of strength in terms of being able to use physical strength to overpower the elephant. The elephant, on the other hand, is very big and it has a lot of energy, but it's also lazy. The rider, on the other hand, can think logically, can think rationally, and can think long term, understands the long term consequences of our actions. Whereas the elephant is lazy and wants instant gratification. The elephant wants to do the things that give it comfort, happiness, and pleasure in the short term. Now imagine the rider wanting to move the body forward, the elephant forward. Take the case of wanting to get up in the morning to exercise. Now the rider knows that I must exercise in order for good health in the long term. The rider also understands that I will need to make sacrifices in the short term in order to get that long term benefit. The elephant, on the other hand, lives in the moment. It's our emotional self. So it does not want to make those short term sacrifices. It needs the instant gratification. So when the alarm goes off in the morning, the rider wants to get up, but the elephant wants to press the snooze button and go back to sleep, because in the short term it needs that pleasure of some additional sleep. So our intent, our desire, our plan to get up and go for the exercise falls apart. The same thing happens with the doctor who smokes. He or anyone he smokes. Why doctors? All of us understand that smoking leads to bad things for our body. So somewhere we know and we try to quit, but what prevents us from getting out of that habit is the elephant. The elephant loves the short-term pleasure of the cigarette. And so when these two do not work together, the elephant overpowers the rider, because the elephant is very big and strong, the rider is very small. The elephant is able to overpower the big and the little rider and get his way. So we are not able to embrace the better habit. There was an experiment conducted, and this is from the book. So the elephant and rider analogy that I talked about that was created by Johathan Haidt has been used brilliantly by the Heath brothers in their book Switch. And they talk about this experiment that was conducted, this research that was conducted, where a bunch of college students were asked to solve a puzzle, and what they wanted to see was, how does willpower work? We often tend to think that when we are not able to embrace, when we are not able to get up early in the morning, or we are not able to give up smoking, it's our willpower that is lacking. We are short of willpower, and the people who are able to do it have more willpower. Now, the researchers wanted to test this hypothesis. So they took these two groups of students in this research. To one group of students, they took them into a room that had these really nice cookies, freshly baked cookies that smelled really nice. The room was full of aroma of the cookies, and so they had these cookies sitting in a bowl, lots of these cookies, and then in another bowl they have freshly cut carrots, probably not very enticing. So they told this group of students that they are doing a taste test, they are doing a smell test, and what they need to do is whenever they want they can sample some of the cookies, but they are not to touch the carrots. Another similar group of students taken to another room where they had the same setup. They had these beautiful freshly baked nice smelling cookies. The room was full of the aroma of the cookies, and then they had some carrots in another bowl, and they said, well, we are doing this test and you are not to touch these cookies. All you can do if you feel hungry is have a few carrots. And they were made to sit in this environment for 15-20 minutes. Now that was not the end of the experiment. After this, both groups of students were told that, hey, we just want you to do this little thing before you leave, and we just want to see how you do, because you're college students, we are going to give you some puzzles, let's see if you can solve them. So they challenged them that to solve those puzzles. They gave them some puzzles which were really tough, pretty much unsolvable, and then measured what they did. The results were astonishing. The group of students who were allowed to eat the cookies spent on an average 19 minutes trying those puzzles before giving up, and on an average they made 34 attempts each in different ways to solve those puzzles. Whereas on the other hand, against the 19 minutes, the other group where they could not have the cookies, they were only allowed to have the carrots, only spent on an average 9 minutes trying to solve these puzzles and had about 15 attempts, half of them. Both were half. Significant difference. Now what this tells us is that willpower or self-control is a finite resource. In order to quit a bad habit, we need self-control. We need willpower, same thing. In order to get up in the morning and go to exercise, we need self-control, we need willpower. And willpower is a finite resource. It is, and so if it is spent doing something else, so the students who were not allowed to have the cookies spent some of their willpower on resisting eating the cookies, and therefore when they had to apply that willpower to persist with solving the difficult problems, they gave up much sooner. They just got tired. It's a very interesting finding. It tells us that it's not about the willpower. We have to do something else in order to make this happen. So the thing that what we have to do is we have to take advantage of the good things that a writer brings to the table and negate. So what is the good thing about the writer? The writer can think logically, think long term, is willing to make short term sacrifices, but the problem with the writer is analysis paralysis. The writer suffers from that problem. So to get the writer moving, we have to get him out of the analysis, and I'm using the word him in sort of a gender neutral sort of way. The elephant, the strength of the elephant is energy and motivation, but the elephant lacks. What is the problem with the elephant? The elephant is lazy. So we have to get the elephant out of this slumber and get him moving. So we have to use a tactic there to get the elephant moving. So what I'm going to talk about in my next episode is how do we tackle this? How do we do these things so that the rider and the elephant get up and get moving? Because the elephant ultimately is the one that makes things happen. The rider does the planning and thinking, gives direction. It's the elephant who makes the things happen with its bulk, with its energy, with its strength. So if we can get them moving together, we can do anything. And so in the next episode, I'm going to leverage these this understanding of how this works in order to talk about 3 strategies that we can use to get moving, develop good habits, get rid of bad ones, and increase our impact, influence, and ability to make things happen. So see you on, so do watch the next episode, because that will sort of complete this picture. All the best.